everyone. I am your host for the session, Maneet from IMEI. Welcome to the panel discussion on what is New India consuming. We would like to begin by thanking you all for being a part of PubVision, the business of digital publishing. A special thank you to Kanta for being the knowledge partner. Without further ado, let's start. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Mr. Sriraman, Chief Executive Officer, Avaz.com, who will be moderating today's session. Joining us today, we have a distinguished set of leaders, Mr. Prasenjit Datta, former editor, Business Today and Business World, and we'll be having Mr. B.V. Rao joining in, group editor, TV9 Network. I would request all the delegates to keep posting their questions in the chat box, and the panel will address a selected few at the end of the session. Over to you, Mr. Sriraman.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Good to be here. So the introductions are done. So let me begin. Mr. Datta, you look at how publishing has emerged today, right? It's kind of hard to say who is a publisher today because with advent of 300 million plus smartphones in the country, anyone with a phone and camera can be a publisher today. They can make a Twitter story, they can make an Instagram story, they can make short videos, they can make live broadcast from a, if something is happening in a location, they could live broadcast it on YouTube or Facebook. So everyone is a publisher now. Anyone with a smartphone is a publisher, right? So how are the organized players, protecting their turf? What exactly are they doing?
Yeah. So, see, there are two parts to this. I would like to answer this in two parts. The first is that, yes, anybody can be a publisher. Anybody with a phone or a blog or anything can be a publisher. The question is, uh, do they have readers beyond or viewers beyond, let us say, uh, a few family members and the close friends? Uh, any housewife, my daughter, me, we can put up any video in any platform, right? Will people see it? That is the real question. And that is why I think that there is still a difference between an organized player who has got a setup, multiple reporters, has built a brand over a long period of time, a proper website which will not crash if there are more than 10 people. So they still have an advantage over everybody. But one thing which has become very, very clear in digital is that because of the surfeit of content and because of the surfeit of publishers, uh, the reader, stroke viewer, stroke listener of audio files has become far more choosy than they were earlier, uh, because it is easier for them to access. And which is why you will find that there is one set of guys who are individually putting up their stuff on TikTok or YouTube or Twitter or Instagram, who has built up a huge following because people like his or her content. And even some big publishers floundering because they are still putting up the same thing that they get from news agencies without editing it, without adding any value add or anything like that. So I think that this is something everybody has realized, that it is ultimately we are now becoming again a content game. And the viewers are fairly discerning. You can have one video which goes viral, but unless you give a content regularly, which is exceptional, you're not going to get people coming back to watch you, listen to you, read your story, or anything like that. And this is where I think is going to be the future trend, where publishers need to realize that, okay, maybe I don't have the resources for everything, but I have the resources to excel in these five things and keep excelling in these five things and build a dedicated following on these five things where I am the first port of call on those things. So I think that that is very, very important for people to realize that, that this is not going to be a easy game. Today, I can like Amazon Prime videos. Tomorrow, I can subscribe to Netflix. Today, I like New York Times, tomorrow I can just dump it. It's become easier to move from platforms. So the job for traditional publishers has been A, focus on content. Number two, keep the quality high, because you can one bad story, one bad video, and you have lost your audience again. So
Right. No, it's interesting you say that, organized publishers should, excel in a 4 or 5 things and then have a first port of call in certain things. Yes, that definitely looks like, you're strengthening what you're already good at. But basis what you said, I'm thinking that, you said one video may go viral, but that doesn't mean you will be a publisher tomorrow. So even independent creators, right, over a period of time, if they constantly start making good quality content, so then they're tending towards an organized player themselves. So then maybe they can't be called a user generated or
so yeah, so see, I have a you know, it's a slightly uh, expanded theory, but I have been saying this for quite some time. That readers, viewers, anybody, they do not they do not subscribe to a newspaper or a magazine or a TV channel or something. They were forced to do this in the era before digital, because that was the only way that you could get the story that you wanted to look at
right.
or read or watch. Uh, People typically, any viewer or reader will typically have only 4 or 5 interest areas where they will do a lot. And over a period of time, people have either started focusing on certain publications or on certain content creators, whether it is a audio, whether it's a podcast or whether it's a video channel, of people whom they have begun to trust for exceptional content in that area. So there might be, so for example, if I follow technology or finance, so there might be 5 people over the past 1 year that I have identified as exceptionally good people in that area. And I will keep going back to them. Now, if they are associated with a publisher, I will go to that publishing site, or I will go directly to his blog or to his video channel or anything. So we have reached a place where the brand of the content creator, even within a big name, is equally important. For example, I will tell you one small case from uh, my area of specialty, which is business and financial journalism. In this, I follow 5 people for their banking and finance coverage. Tamal Bandyopadhyay, Raghu Mohan, Ira Duggal, uh, Andy Mukherjee,
Right.
Anup Roy. Now, the thing is that these people have moved around. Some of them have stayed in one place,
Yeah.
another has moved around. But when that person has moved to a new publication, I have followed them into that publication and started subscribing to that publication only to read that person, that what is his take or her take on a particular subject.
Right.
So that is how I think that things will very clearly, it will be interest areas, and very clearly you will figure out that, okay, who is it? Am I getting my technology thing from Wired, or am I getting it from New York Times? Or am I getting it from the Times of India? If I have a person I like in Times of India who is covering technology very, very well, I will keep reading him. So I think that it is, whether you are independent, whether you are associated with it, I think it is areas of specialization which will keep driving us forward, not not the, see, there is the New York Times, right? And New York Times is an exceptional example because it probably does great news and articles in a lot of areas.
Right.
But I don't think that anybody else has the resources to give excellent content in almost all those. Everybody else that you see who are doing well on digital, whether it's a Financial Times or Economist, are specializing in narrow areas. Yeah.
Yes, I completely agree. But however, in the past, when I used to work in advertising, we used to be approached by this, people who have one small community. For example, a parenting blog with some 10,000 readers. They used to say that, look, we have attention of 10,000 moms. Why don't your diaper brand associate with us? And we were kind of inclined to do so, right? So isn't it possible that slowly the revenue pie is getting chipped away by independent, it's not like
It would
one
depend.
small guy
Yeah,
is
it
taking it
would
away.
depend.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would depend. See, there are lots of places where traditional publishers or even specialized publishers have no real advantage. One classic example is technology. Yeah. Today, I can practically, if I have a major technology problem, which I think I can solve, I can go to one of the Reddit threads, which is specializing in that, and keep asking for help and solve it. So practical technology, I can do it through YouTube, through Reddit, through Twitter. I can just post a question, or on Quora, I can just post a question and get my answer. As far as news is concerned, look at it this way. I mean, in the sense that if Apple is bringing out a new product or Windows is bringing out a new OS, it is going to be everywhere. Yeah. So I don't need to worry about that. So it is something that, I subscribe to only one technology piece, which is Wired, because I think that it is still talking about long-term technology better than others. Otherwise, I just read it online without actually focusing on others. But if I look at Indian policy, then I will follow a few people whom I think have got it right in Indian policy and who have spent years specializing it. Now, of course, the question is that will he go alone or can he create a system like it? He can, but it's not a very easy thing. There are
Right.
certain things like travel where you can do a lot of group sourcing. Even in parenting, you can do group sourcing. Even in technology problems, you can do group sourcing. But not all subjects, every time a government introduces a policy, you don't want to listen. I don't listen to even the political reporters who fly down from Delhi because, it's always the local reporter who has the pulse on the ground. It's never the star sitting in Delhi never understands the nuances of what is happening in some district, which some little reporter has been focusing on for the last 30 years. So,
Let's take a moment to welcome Mr. Rao. Mr. Rao,
Yeah.
welcome to the panel.
Thank you, Sriraman, and thank you, Prasenjit ji. Sorry,
Yeah.
the
No problem,
inevitable.
sir.
No problems. No problems.
I'm at your disposal, sir.
Yes, we were just discussing that, today anyone with a smartphone is a publisher. They can make video, they can make blog, they can, a parenting blog is chipping away small monies of revenue from a established news company, So how can organized players defend their turf? Your views, Mr. Rao?
Yeah, tough question. Something that we grapple every day these days. Right. So I think this is the nature of the beast now. I think it's not a big organization that we are threatened with these days. It is because of how inexpensive and how easy it has become to publish, that your challenges are coming from a million people rather than one source which can give you million troubles. Million people are giving you millions of troubles now, right? No ready answers. It's something that we try to grapple with every day. I think one thing that we have kind of mastered is that to make the video of a small platform your own, because you are a bigger platform. I think we are actually feeding on them now, in a sense, like all the trending news. What is trending news these days, right? Yeah. By the way, since the subject of the discussion is what New India is consuming, I must tell you, New India's fascination for people has not changed from old India. right? It's mostly trending news. It's all kinds of odd news that still is ruling the roost, even in text and video. Uh, the challenge from smaller players is tough to fend off, because as I said, how many directions do you look in at the same time?
Yeah.
You businesses were fine when you had identified competition. This is your competition. There are 5 people you have to fight with. You have 15% market share. You need to take it to 20 to make it work. I think things were easier. Now, as you rightly said, so many people are chipping away at the organized media's revenues. But I think the light at the end of the tunnel is that people have also had, I think people now are distinguishing between news and let's say the entertainment or the trending bit of it.
Right.
Trending will still give you larger numbers, but I think even people, especially after Corona and the kind of false news, or I won't call necessarily fake news, but I think most of the time that we, even as media houses, we fall for some video somewhere. And is my prompt says network is poor. I don't know if I'm coming through. Am I? Can you hear me?
You, though we are not able to see you, but please continue, sir. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So I think this silver lining is that people have now started distinguishing between the regular dependable media houses, which process news, which right, and the individual who can put just about anything and get away with, and who cannot be also taken to task, because most of social media allows you, like Twitter and everybody allows you to be incognito, right? So I think people are now seeing the difference between that kind of news and news put through the proper funnels, the proper filters, the proper supervision. I think that is where we have some amount of what do you call ground that we have gained in the last maybe 1 year, especially in Corona. I think that's the silver lining. But you're right. I think by looking around here, there, everywhere, we've all got a crick in our neck right now, and that's not going to go away soon.
Fair enough. But with digital publishing comes another opportunity and also a challenge. For example, today we have this UGC platform, or we call as user-generated content platform, which would be Facebook, YouTube.
Yes.
It was meant for independent content creators. But if you look, every news channel, every publisher across spectrum, they have their channel and they want to grow their subscribers there. They are not just broadcasting on terrestrial channels and TV, but they are even competing on YouTube, right? So essentially, the way I see it is, it's free lunch. Let's say you spend crores of rupees in setting up a TV station, a media company, digital publishing house. You have team on ground, you have camera, you have post production, you have everything, OB, whatnot, and then the content is free on a YouTube or free on a Facebook. What is going on, and what is the compensation a publisher is really getting? Because the ad eCPM and all are like some 50 cents for 1,000 views. It makes no sense. But what would be the real compensation, Mr. Datta, Mr. Rao, both of you? I would love you to weigh in your opinion on this.
Yeah, I'll defer to Prashanjit ji pehle. Yeah, then I can comment.
Okay, so see, I think that this is going to change reasonably soon, right? We have already had a big case in Australia where there's been a law passed. Initially, both Google, Facebook, YouTube, they all, tried very hard, saying that we will abandon Australia rather than pay publishers. But they all came down when they realized that they couldn't ignore Australia as a market. A smaller portion of this has happened in Europe. The European Union has forced them to give better deals to bigger publishers. Some of this is the fault of publishers also, I said, because they started off initially thinking that Google was where they could just go and display their stuff. And then they rode the beast until they have done. But if you have seen YouTube of late, you will realize that YouTube is also going paid, right? Where it is saying that this is where we are doing this. So the publishers, in my opinion, have three separate routes. One is that if you are cash rich, which very few publishers are now, you try and build your own channel, which is not necessarily dependent on YouTube. The other thing is that what is called the staggered option. That, okay, I have it is live on my TV right now, but you can also watch it free on YouTube, but you will get to see it on YouTube maybe an hour later. For example, the Mirror Group does this. The entire, I have been in panel discussions where there is, the panel discussion is between, let us say, 8:30 and 9:30, and you can watch the same thing on YouTube at, let's say, 10:30 onwards.
Right.
A recorded program. So that's a separate thing. You have already taken whatever you could have done on it, and if a person really wants to watch it much later, this is only a distribution channel and you're getting some money out of it. The third thing is that I think, and this is the movement which is very strongly there, is that people, if the content is good enough, you're going to charge for it. Yeah. So I think the era of giving away free content is gone. People are charging at the moment very small amounts, but it will grow. YouTube itself has started pushing every day. It is pushing for its ad-free subscriptions, and that I think is an opportunity to renegotiate and say that, okay, if you are going to include, because YouTube has also realized after Netflix and various other people have come, Amazon Prime and Facebook has come, they have realized that content, if there is good content and if that is not present on their platform, people will leave them. There's no loyalty among viewers anymore. So the fact is that they might be willing, if you have a strong enough, and this is where the first point that I had made was there, that if you have a strong enough content, you can get a better share. But if you have a content which 20 other people have, and this is where I would like to come back to your, to your example of a parenting blog. Yeah, because there were advertisers in the market, a lot of publications, and people started a parenting program or a parenting channel or a parenting this. But what did they do? Did they give any exceptional content? In most cases, they probably crowdsourced or they found the cheapest reporters or the cheapest videographers and tried to create something to grab that piece of advertisement. But see, the point is that they never built a loyal following for the simple reason that they gave pretty pathetic content, and which is why I keep saying that you will get revenues if the person starts trusting your content and you are giving content which is genuinely not available. But if a group of mothers can set up a parenting blog which is crowdsourced and it is as good as anything that today a Times of India or a DNA or anybody else can give, then I don't think that you have a differentiator and you have no right to say that I want advertising because I am Times of India or India Today or something, right? So that's my answer to this.
Thank you, Mr. Datta. Let's hear Mr. Rao. What is the real compensation for publishers uploading their content free on these platforms, Mr. Rao? What do you think?
Yeah. Firstly, I agree with Prasenjit that rather than blame the Googles and the Facebooks and YouTubes of the world, I think we should look back to 1999, 2000, when the first so-called bubble happened, right? The internet media bubble happened. At that time, I remember each one of us would finish our, I was resident at Indian Express then, we would finish our late night edition and go up, and in about 1 hour, 2 hours time, we would cut paste everything free onto samachar.com, right? We would be in race with other papers to ensure that our paper went there first and free. That, I think, is the biggest sin we committed upon ourselves, to be not to be unable to see that this is the medium of the future is one sin. The other is that why would you give away your content prepared for one platform at a very high cost, completely free on another platform? Even if you did not know where that platform would go, would we
Right.
not put a paisa? Would we not put a 5 paisa rate or cost to it? I think at that time, media houses did not have enough wherewithal to see where this was going, and we were stupid enough not to put cost on it then. Now, I think even Times of India, if it puts a paywall, I'm sure they'll have tough times, because there are a million others who will give the same news faster than Times of India, right? So I think we have to kind of blame ourselves for it. The industry has been totally short-sighted, or actually blind to the kind of the onset of technology that was happening. So we have ourselves to blame. But now that we are where we are the platforms being fair to us? Definitely not. They are getting free content. Is it changing? Yes, slowly. After Australia, now Google has come up with its showcase. We are also their partners for 2 languages. A whole lot of other people are also on board for showcase, where Google is paying. Is it optimum? I doubt it is. But right now we are so hungry for any revenue from digital that I think we are making the second blunder now, all of us as publishers, by agreeing for very little. But I think we are under a kind of a pincer grip right now. We are just taking what is coming. Hopefully this will get better. Facebook has also come up. Facebook also, in videos, they're investing, they're calling partners, and they're also negotiating commercial terms. Hopefully this is the beginning, and we as an industry, it's easy to say this. If the media industry comes together, at least the big publishers come together and put our foot down with the platforms, hopefully something better will happen, maybe a year or 2 down the road. As far as monetization of video is concerned, yeah, I can tell you, we last month our YouTube offering of Bharatvarsh, TV9 Bharatvarsh is our television news channel in Hindi, among the top 4 in TRPs till the time they were available. That in May was the number 1 TV channel watched on YouTube by a fair margin, by about 20% margin over the next. But the revenue that you get out of it is not even worth mentioning, right? 30%, yeah. And 30%, we had 285 million views in May. 30% of that come from the live feed, or when they watch our live TV streaming. So it's a big chunk of viewers. 30% of 285 is a big chunk of viewers who are actually watching the streaming rather than our broadcast television. So I'm mentioning this to tell you that I think as broadcasters, we have now come down to the idea, accepting the idea that more and more people are moving to the mobile. So yeah, it's better whether we are watched on DTH or on mobile. It's fine. So we are happy, but then the returns are still not great.
Mr. Datta, you were saying something.
Yeah, so I think that I completely agree, and I think that I am hopeful that if something happens, it will happen over the next couple of years. For one,
Yeah.
is that in the US, the government is going after big tech in a big way. You could see a breakup and multiple, everybody from, small players to publication houses and publishers are now taking their grievances. So if this, in this antitrust case, and the other cases which are happening in the US at the moment, could lead to a radical change and a power shift. One of the
Yeah.
things that is being talked about is that, uh, you know, uh, that what right does a Apple or a Google Play have to take 30% of your revenues by hosting your app? That is one which is going. There is another thing about other marketplaces which are cropping up. Like yesterday, Windows 11 was unveiled, and they have talked about a Windows marketplace which will be compatible with everybody, but where they will not be charging that 30% or 40% that they charge. So I think that there is a movement, and I think that worldwide people are publishers are banding together to take their grievances, and I am hopeful that over the next 2 years, they will still continue making the bulk of the money, but I think that they
Yeah.
will give a better share to good content publishers. But as I keep saying, that the publisher has to be good. For example, this particular platform of Google's, they are not taking everybody. They will only do it with publishers that they think is worth,
Correct.
hosting on that platform, right? So
Right. So,
Absolutely.
you brought it down to my next question. In fact, talking
yeah,
about good quality content, today in the age of misinformation, we even had cases
yeah.
of people lynching each other because there was a fake news being forwarded from one village to other, and two tourists got lynched and all whatnot. So, in the age of misinformation, where anything is possible in WhatsApp University, and people can opinions masquerading as news. How do you establish value in consumers' mind as an organized player? What are publishers doing, or rather, what can they do more?
So, Mr.
So
Rao, you want to answer this first, or?
yes, yeah. I think Sriraman, the simplest thing to fall back on when you are in doubt and you want to really, when you talk of credibility, is to go back to the basics of journalism. We just have to stick to those basics. When see, the thing is that though, but it is the toughest thing to go back to basics. We move so far away from our basics that top editors are falling for all kinds of fake news. You see Twitter, you see WhatsApp, you see the controversy of the president unveiling a portrait, right?
Right.
Top editors fell for it, and why do we do that? We fall for it only because we don't go back to our basics.
Right.
If a particular picture has been put up and said that this is not a picture of Subhash Chandra Bose, but it is the picture of an actor, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 immediate things for any cub reporter to have done, right? Whereas top editors fell for it. I'm saying this with full what do you call awareness that even I and my editors are kind of what do you call fodder for that, because the nature of this business has become that, oh no, you have to get out there fast.
Right.
And so I think we are the what do you call the pressure on us to go back to the basics is thankfully come back because of all the fake news and how we have been exposed as media houses. We've been questioned, not exposed. We have been questioned about our the nitty-gritty, how we deal with our newsrooms. What is the filter? What are the filters with which we use to kind of figure out fake news and all that? I think that's where it is. You have to go back to basics. You have to stop, think, verify. The
Thank you.
latter
Thank
two
you.
are not happening right now. Yeah, the latter two are not happening even in big media houses. That is why we are slipping up, and that is why our credibility as an industry has gone down. So
Right.
it is upon us. It is upon us, the big brands, to actually get it back, and big editors. I include
Mr.
myself
Datta,
in that. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not giving myself a clean chit. I think we are all responsible for the way things have panned out.
that's very humble of you to say so, Mr. Rao. Mr. Datta, what do you think
Yeah,
can
so
publishers
I
do
think that
to
there are
establish
three.
value?
Yeah, yeah. See, I think there are three separate parts to this. Yeah, the first is that exactly what Mr. Rao said. I completely agree. That people have to invest in their newsrooms. Publishers, big publishers, will have to invest in their newsrooms. Mr. Rao is being kind, but let me tell you something that he has not mentioned. Uh, Quite often, publishers, a media owner or a media company will hire a very good editor like Mr. Rao, but then give him tiny budgets. So he will have to depend on a lot of very young people, straight out of college, and try to push and create a lot of content for it. Yeah. I think what New York Times and Washington Post and others have realized is that you cannot, cut back on quality of content. You need mid-rung reporters. You need, people training them. Young reporters earlier in my era, we had a two. I mean, we were before we got our first bylines in. It would go through three editors who'd ask some tough questions. Throw us out. Today, I have handled newsrooms in my stint in Business Today, where I can barely look at it, read it, give it one glimpse and say that from a 21-year-old and say that, okay, do the due checks and just put it on the net. So that is one problem. I think that we need to invest a lot more in this thing, in newsrooms. The second problem is that there is a lot of technology available today, but we have to figure out how to use it. I will tell you a very simple question. My former colleague Rahul Kaval has built a very good, fact check unit in India today, which is equipped with all the tools and all. But quite often, in his speed to tweet something, he will make a mistake and tweet something which is obviously fault, and which, India Today fact check team itself will within 15 minutes do it. So the the pressure to be the fastest with the news is what is getting people into mistakes, even if they have fully full technology backing them and all that. And I think that this is one place where I would say that that it is, we are now moving into a point that where it is better to be 10 minutes late because news is becoming a commodity, but 10 minutes late with value added and properly checked news instead of tweeting out the first thing that comes. The first picture that Rajdeep Sardesai tweeted as being, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's, so.
Unfortunate, yes. So thank you. I like to summarize this. I think Mr. Rao said that journalism, we have to go back to our basics, and Mr. Datta says we should invest in newsroom, cannot cut on the quality. And since news is getting increasingly commoditized, it's okay to go live 10 minutes late with value add, then go immediately and make a fool of yourself. So thank you, gentlemen. So moving to the next question, this is on the business aspect. So far, we have established all the quality and the digital disruptions. But what are brands looking at today? Do they want reach? Is what channels and broadcasters promised. But today, increasingly, there is competition again from technology where there is direct response. For example, if I put an ad on Google, somebody can click. It can even turn into a conversion on my website. But if I put an ad on TV, it can build brand, it can build awareness, relevance, so on. right? So is there publishers facing this from brands? Like, is there expectations changing from brands? Do they want more ROI? What are your experiences on this front? Mr. Rao, maybe you want to go first?
Here, Dattaji should go first.
Okay. So I think
He's
that the marketing team has to be far more, and marketing team of clients have to be far more careful about where they're going. I have had meetings in business today of people coming, the advertising team telling me that please meet the client. He wants to give something on this. So, and I asked them that why does he want to give this advertisement in business today, given that this is one area where we have, I don't remember the last story that we did. There was one guy, one of my marketing colleagues got me somebody who was promising a lot of money for doing something on cricket. I said that, in business today, we have never covered cricket. We have a lot of interest in cricket personally. We can also do the stories. It is not that we can't do the content. But we will do, and I know that we will do pretty terrible content. Why isn't he going to India today? Yeah, or why isn't he going to somebody who covers sports properly? He says that no, because we are prestige. Yeah, we reach a certain SEC. I said that we might reach a certain SEC, but we are terrible in sports, So I think that clients have to be more choosy. Brands have to be more choosy that where, and this I think is really a fault which I have faced, that clients quite often let the fact that, okay, we are reaching out and there will be direct conversions, that promise take over, being present on a relevant platform. And this, I think, used to be very much, and I think that even clients have to go back to the basics. What is, am I, if I'm a real estate client, does it make any sense for me to put it up in India Today where just because of its reach? No, because real estate is a localized game. What will I do with an all India magazine?
Right.
So these are the kind of questions where even the clients have to be more choosy and probably hire better marketing, managers. So.
I think we are at the stage where I think the clients have at least heard about digital and they want more digital. But I think it is the agencies that are still stuck with the traditional TV mode, because that's the bigger money is there, because here everything is measurable in digital. If you promise 50 million views and you end up with 1 million views, which is so easily measurable in digital, then you have a problem. Whereas in TV, you can kind of walk your way through saying, no, we delivered this age group, this channel is the best in SEC A+++ and all that. You can give a lot of hot air and gas. But in digital advertising, the strength of the digital medium itself becomes a little bit of a problem for us, because deliveries are easily measurable. And you can go to the extent of which city, which segment of population, which are they graduates or non-graduates, women or youngsters, all kinds of things is available. So I think it's the advertiser is still holding the clients to TV advertising, but that will have to change. I give it another 2 years before lots more of advertising moves from TV to digital. It's already on the up right now, but so the problem is this. I keep saying, let's look at the Times of India. The Times of India has some 22 million copies it prints. Maybe 4 or 5 readers per copy. Let's say they have a readership of 1 crore in across the country. So, but their advertising revenues at the during heydays were some 7,000.
Too many network issues cropping up.
Oh, you can't hear me? Can you hear me now?
We can. Yeah.
No. So I was talking about the Times of India.
Now we can hear you.
The Times of India. Print revenue would have been about, I think that in the heyday, I don't know the number of crores, say 3,000 crores to 7,000 crores. I'm not a finance guy, so I wouldn't know that. Prasenjit will know better. Let's say it was 3,000 crores, and reaching 1 crore readers every day, versus Times Now, which is a television brand, right, reaches many more readers, right, on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. But then I'm sure it's not a brand of more than 250 crore or maybe 300 crore, which means that we are saying that if Times of India was 3,000 crore, I'm sure it was much better than that. The television brand is 1/10. Now, move from television to mobile, the Times of India is the biggest digital publisher, maybe 170 million users every month. But the advertising would be about, say, 150 crore, 170 crore, half of what it is on television. So the yield from print to television to digital is actually going down. You're gathering more and more viewers, you're reaching more and more, but your yield per user or viewer is coming down, and that is the big problem with the digital. So how are we going to ever make money? Times of India might be surviving, people like us, the big brand might be surviving because the traditional modes are still giving us monies, and all our costs in digital are subsidized. But if I were to run an empire, we have hired nearly 550 people in the last 6 months into our digital operation. If that were a standalone digital operation, you can imagine the kind of cost that I would have. Since it is a kind of an offshoot of a broadcast business, and we are the biggest broadcast in terms of reach, weekly reach. So a whole lot of our costs are underwritten by the legacy media. I think that is why we are still kind of in business. You take that away, I don't know what are the bottom lines of any, starting from the Times of India. I would be very, very worried whether this can survive on its own. Can survive.
Interesting
Sorry.
thoughts, Mr. Rao. Yes, we are nearly time.
Yes.
Thank you, Datta. Thank you, Mr. Rao. Excellent insights. I would
Thank
have
you.
summarized most of the learnings, but one or two key takeaways is publishers are to be blamed for the most of the mess they are, and they need to invest in newsroom, get the basics right. And of course, there is a different trend of moving from one medium to other. User base are growing, but that's not showing in revenue. That's a lot to debate. Thank you so much. I thoroughly enjoyed being in this session and hearing you speak. Manmeet,
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. It was definitely an insightful session, and it was definitely very engaging as well. I hope all our attendees also enjoyed this session. Thank you once again, and stay safe.
Thank you for
Thank
inviting
you,
us.
Thank you, Prasenjit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.